and welcome to Fine is a four-letter word. My guest today is Kyle Kroeger. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, Lori.
We were just talking because at the beginning, when you hit record for the for recording, it has a countdown of like five, and I always feel like there should be Jeopardy music running, and then so that's what we were just laughing about because run it in your head, Jeopardy
Right.
music, and here we are.
And a picture of Alex Trebek, maybe, too, to complement it. Yeah.
Right, because it doesn't matter who they get to fill in for him now that he's gone,
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just always that's who Jeopardy is.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you watch Jeopardy when you were growing up?
Not a ton. It would be on every once in a while or, yeah, visiting, grandma's house or something. But yeah, go out of my way too much to watch it. I was always so immersed into sports. But, yeah, when it was on, it was always, yeah, a kick. I always liked it.
Yeah, I love Jeopardy, and then my favorite category is like business and industry or music.
Yeah, music. Yep. That was my jam. And sports. Those two sections is like when I would shine.
Yeah. So speaking of growing up, what were the values and the beliefs that you were raised with that were instilled into you as you were growing up?
Yeah, I was grew up under like an entrepreneurial family. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, which yeah, I feel like that instilled some like hardworkingness. Very middle class entrepreneurs where yeah, do your job like and be passionate about what you do too. So like from kind of growing up and learning like from more of a professional perspective, that was big. But then outside of like professionally, and those type of values, a lot of independence was important and being active, but also like having your own life and being with your friends. No limits of just kind of like, hey, if you want to be with your friends, like you should go live and enjoy that, right? So yeah, that was great. That was big parts of my kind of early years and even to today.
And then how did those values develop or contribute to who you became as a young adult when you were choosing a career or choosing what to do with your life?
Yeah, I've been looking back on that now a lot lately because being that I'm so like I love like change or like being challenged or having uncomfortableness and learning from that. So like yeah, so that's really there. Now, travel quite a bit or even move super far away and right and like love those type of things and those challenges. And then even like entrepreneurially, always thinking of something else I could, you could be doing or the sky's the limit, I guess. And yeah, input is output, right? If you work hard at something, you should see the results.
Maybe. We
Maybe.
talk a lot about the
Should,
whole
yeah.
like hard work equals success, but that's not necessarily true. That's what we're
Yep.
taught,
Yep.
and that's what's instilled in us. So everybody's working as hard as they can, but they're not necessarily seeing the success because they also have other beliefs that are wired in there that are contradictory to that.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that's
like,
true.
money is evil, or like being an entrepreneur is you just end up failing because somebody in the family did it and they failed, and or what. Okay, now we're gonna go down the rabbit hole of what is failure. Like they didn't get the result they thought they were gonna get, and so
Yeah,
now, yeah,
it's a very complex formula. It's not as easy, there's not an equals by any means. There's definitely there's pluses, minuses, and maybe like dividers that even go into some of that too, right? But yeah, it's
yeah. I mean, we talk a lot, and I want to get into it with you too because of what your business is. In that it's not just hard work. Yes, you have to do some work, but it's about taking inspired action, and then it's about allowing yourself to recharge and to go have fun and to play, and how important that is. Was that always a factor in what you were doing? Like, because you weren't always talking about travel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in my professional background, I was always in finance, right? And and working in a, very traditional environment, traditional office environment. And yeah, I really wanted to work on something that didn't feel like it was work, right? And felt like I was just having fun all the time. And that's what I do now, right? So with viatravelers.com, it's my travel website that I run. We, exploring, which was my huge hobby, and seeing new worlds and cultures. That was what I wanted to do, and wasn't necessarily like, didn't have a background in it, but I knew I was passionate about it. So I wanted to just follow that journey a bit. And so kind of ran with it. And yeah, that's been a great ride so far, obviously. And it's a lot more to come.
What inspired you to go after doing, like, turning something that you loved into a career? Because a lot of people are at jobs that they're okay, they're fine, and they have something they're passionate about, but they don't see a clear path to how they could turn that into money.
Right. Yeah, I think in my finance job, I felt like I was fine. It was always something like, that was the goal when I graduated school, was I wanted to do this, right? Like, this was the job, right? And I was sitting there working very long hours, and I'm like, this isn't actually what I'm passionate about. Like, this isn't, I like it. I do have passion, I guess, for it, but there's more out there, I guess, too, right? And so I had that aha moment of not sort of like, it wasn't really all that fine. And so I think like testing the waters a bit on the side to truly like answer those questions. What do I truly want to be doing? And that, a lot of people can do anything, right? You just, it's a matter if you want, like what you want to do, right? And staying focused to like, the trials and tribulations of your passion, I guess, because it won't be it might not be a straight line. And it definitely won't. But when you have that fire, that passion about it, that's when you follow that path, and before you know it, you unlock and learn so many things about it and about yourself along the way. So testing the waters was huge.
What did you do specifically to test the waters?
I went on a handful of trips, and I used to love taking photos with my iPhone, but then I stepped it up to digital camera, and then to the GoPro, and then to a drone. And so every time I was traveling for vacation or had PTO, I started with that digital camera, and I was like, okay, this is great, this is fun. So like, I like this, I like capturing the memories, and then stepped into video, and then, all right, well, why don't I just build like a journal, like of my experiences and memories, that just lives on the internet that other people can also see. And so, then just kind of kept stepping it up, and eventually it was freeing enough where I felt like, there's enough balance that it was something that was actually sustainable, for the future. So, and love doing it along the way. So end up being a no-brainer to transition.
Okay, so you have this journal that you have online, which so that's all cool. And then you probably started getting a lot of followers because people are interested in travel. Then how did you monetize that to be able to leave your full-time job?
Yeah, the monetization angle is always very hard with this, but that's okay, right? Like, it doesn't initially, like, it's not going to be right away, right? It takes some time, but display advertising and is one part, and then affiliate marketing. So, that's basically a toll road of the internet. A lot of people don't realize that how many like affiliate links exist, but it's a way to compensate sending people to a different site where they take an action. So if somebody booked a hotel, we get a small commission, and that helps us fund our operations and our writing team and all of that.
Yeah. So when you're talking about affiliate, you're talking about you are the affiliate for a hotel, for example. Because when you first started talking about it, just because of my frame of reference, I'm thinking you have affiliates sharing your information and they're getting paid, which could also be happening because you don't have necessarily a large list on your own. And so you use other people's lists or audiences.
Yep. It's mainly, yeah, we send people to trusted products that we use to help us travel smarter. And that's why it's like it's like an easy monetization per se, but it's like it's easy to naturally speak about it. It's like if you're going through the travel rhythm, you
Right.
know, like this is literally what I use all the time. So yeah, it just becomes that much easier to talk about it within your journaling of your experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about getting some sponsorship for the podcast, actually. And I'm working with somebody, and it's only going to be products or services that I use. Like, I'm not,
Yeah.
you're never going to, I was about to say a company that you will never hear me talking about, but because you'll never hear me talking about it, I'm not going to say it.
Right.
But it's some fast food companies that I would never eat at. So I'm not going to, those would never be. It's
Exactly.
just a natural extension, right? Like affiliate marketing is you're talking about products that you would be talking about anyway.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you don't want to be like talking about like if I had a green living site or something or sustainability and I'm recommending them to go with fossil fuels like
Right.
like it just aligns like your audience to you and you're providing helpful information too along the way. So that's what makes it a great business too as well, as what why I even pursued it more because you have sort of this alignment of interests amongst your tribe and all of the people that want to share in that journey with you.
Yeah, yeah. How long did it take you from when you got the idea to create an online travel journal until you left your full-time job and this was replacing your income?
Yeah, about a year and a half or so.
Okay.
Yeah, about a year and a half. I'll say that. Yeah, year and a half. So Via Travelers started, the name came out because when I was in Italy on my honeymoon, Via is street in Italian. It's also a connection between, a journey, just destinations. So the concepts like street travelers or finding ways to, go off the beaten path. And so I was trying to think of honeymoon time to leaving. It was probably more like 2 years, two and a half.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I mean, it's interesting and it's realistic to say that it was 2.5 years because you look at sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I left my full-time job and I just started doing this. And it's like, seems like it's overnight. And people are like, okay, well, if it's going to like, then it's not realistic for other people to go and think that they could do that same thing. It just, it takes time to build something
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, it really does. I think that's my one thing that I've always talked about to a number of different people that want to go on a similar path is that, yeah, you kind of want to know what you're getting into and the rhythm and almost act like on the side. It's going to take a lot of work because you're going to kind of be doing 2 full-time jobs,
Right.
but testing it in a way and going and acting like, oh, this is what my day would be like, can really have some like mental clarity and a good like level setting of like when you do make the switch of being like, this is now what I do. And so, yeah, I always encourage, trying it out, and it doesn't have to be right away. You could always kind of try something else and that's the part of testing the waters.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give to people who are like, well, I want to do it, but they have a million different reasons why they can't.
Yeah. I always love this one. I think it's just as simple as 2 words. Just start, right? I think just start is like, yeah, it's hard to explain, but if you want to, yeah, it's like stepping outside of your house. Like if you want to go for a run, you have to take the first step out of your house.
Yeah.
So it can be as simple as that. And it could be like, and so before you know it, if you have that mindset and you kind of maintain it, before you know it, reward yourself for the small things, right? So first dollar of revenue, like there you go. That's milestone one. Before you know it, like then it's again more like something else, right? Instead level and kind of leveling up from that very like ground zero of just start to then now you have a little ladder to climb.
I love
Yeah.
that you just recommended that people celebrate even the smallest wins, the first dollar. So I talk about that a lot too. It's about celebrating. When you celebrate even the smallest things, the universe rewards you with more things to
Exactly.
celebrate, more things to celebrate. Now you took the travel thing and you actually are living overseas now. How did that happen? And what was the like is that because you have more access to traveling to different places that you wanted to go easier? That didn't even come out right, but it
Yeah.
gives you yeah.
I get,
What was your decision
yeah.
there?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I totally get the thing. It was a multiple angled thing. I came, so I live in Amsterdam now. I grew up in Minnesota. When I studied abroad when I was young, and I visited Amsterdam, and I left the city, and I was like, I really like the city. I wanna live here someday, and visited multiple times, and kind of still reiterated that point. I felt like every time I visited. So, that was kind of a goal to be like, hey, live in a whole new place. And then beyond that, yeah, during COVID, I started a travel blog during COVID was like when I was really like focusing on it. Hard time to start
Yeah.
a travel site. But did a lot of day trips, a lot of nature, a lot of national parks, a lot of state parks, day trips around the Twin Cities of Minnesota, and covered a lot of ground there. Yeah, covered almost every tourist town in Minnesota. So yeah, going to Europe where you can train travel pretty easily and see so many different cultures, so many different places. That certainly helps. And Yeah, so why not give that a try? So it was a little bit personal, a little bit business.
Yeah, that's cool. And your wife was on board, obviously, since
Yes,
she's living with you.
yes, and our 2-year-old toddler did not have a say, unfortunately, because she was young. We told her, and she knows what she's doing now, obviously. But I kind of always joke about that. But she's living her best life, and she speaks more Dutch than both of us combined.
I bet. I
So
was just gonna say it'll be really easy for her to learn Dutch.
yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, I had some notes from our first conversation about creativity and personal development and growth. And let's talk a little bit. Like, what was the path of your personal development?
I think like the path for development was really focused on, I think like expanding your thought process beyond what you're traditionally like told is the only way to be. Like, that's a very common thing in like very high level, like professional service type jobs, like finance, where, this is the way we do things. Don't stray outside the box, or to really wanting to embrace like something that's completely different than that, where it's more creativity driven and not numbers, right, and not spreadsheets. So I traded in my spreadsheets for GoPros and things like that, and that was a huge learning curve and was kind of intimidating at times, for sure. But sort of embracing some of that to become like more personally developed, and learning those to round out your kind of your personal knowledge base of yourself, right? Round out your knowledge base by knowing you can kind of know some of the creative side, but then you at the end of the day still have in your back pocket some of the things you've learned in other expertise areas.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of support did you have? Like, were people around you supportive of your move, or were they kind of like, dude, what are you doing? You have this amazing job in finance, and and you're going to leave that for this? What do you like?
Yeah.
Did you get
I
a
think
lot of that?
it was generally neutral, which is actually interesting, right?
Yeah.
It's like kind of people would be like, you know, so you're doing this now, or like people will ask like why Amsterdam, I guess, and that answer was pretty clear for me. But in terms of like what I was doing, it wasn't. Yeah, no one really commented on it. Maybe it's the Minnesotan of my friend base is like avoid anything bad or any conflict as much as possible.
Yeah, we're just not talking about it. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Everything's fine. So yeah, it generally everyone's come to visit, and that's been really cool to see. And you know, probably wouldn't have come to visit this area, and hopefully helping others take that first step of going on a completely new trip that they might not have otherwise done.
Yeah, so you're on a personal mission to introduce Minnesotans to Europe.
Exactly. It's like one by one.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's coming up next? What are you excited about working on these days?
Yeah, we would love to. So we're working on creating our own products and being more immersed with our community of readers. So, you know, anyone that's listening, encourage you if you love travel, join our newsletter. We can interact directly with me via email. I respond to all emails. But another example of a new everything was fine moment was actually within the last like 3 weeks.
Oh, good. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So we spent so much time. We have a team of 10 to 12 writers, all with different perspectives of travel, and all in different parts of the world, you know, as expats. And spent a lot of time reading like Google's guidelines for what quality content is, and worked really hard to like focus on that and develop really good. And we love our content for sure. But in the last 3 weeks, right, a lot of the algorithm has changed, and that's impacted us a lot, right? And so over the last year, thought everything was fine because we were relying on someone else's guidance, which guidance changes now quite frequently. And so it wasn't fine because we were relying on this one entity, and kind of getting jerked around a bit by it. And so we need to stop focusing on that. We need to focus on our people that want to hear our travel stories. We didn't go to 12 countries in the last year for no reason, right? And so we want to share and help people. That's the biggest thing, is we want to solve travel problems and help people. So that is our number one focus going forward now. So yeah.
Cool.
A lot to unpack there.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
What is the most interesting travel problem you have solved?
I think the ability to see more with less, like that's a big part of mine, is maximizing your dollar on experiences. So we've, it's not really quantifiable, I guess, probably through our number of people on our newsletter. But one thing we offer is different like travel hacking guides, where it's simple hacks of ways to find very cheap flights, how to see more in places without like, you don't need a massive budget to take that trip around or across the globe, right? And so I think helping some people, and I've gotten feedback directly from the newsletter of some of those things that like, wow, like I would have never thought I was going to go to Japan ever in my life. And some of those things that you've, provided helped me do that, right? And so one of those is like all I need.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I was thinking when you said that, I was thinking that people send you questions or challenges that they're facing and that you help them solve it. So I was wondering if you had like a story from somebody specifically, but you just mentioned like you helped somebody go to Japan who never thought they would be able to go.
Yep.
And yeah.
We are going to do a little bit more of that feedback loop actually, and try to understand. So that's one thing we're doing actually this week, is just kind of interacting and figuring out where that exists, and we're going to do whatever we can to solve that gap.
Do you have a crazy travel story of your own? Like, I can't believe this happened, or I can't believe I made it out of this situation. What?
Yes, in a way. Well, one was crazy. I was at a wedding in Outer Banks, and I had a layover, and it was the day after the wedding, so late start to the day. Flew out, had a layover, and then went to Minneapolis. We were supposed to fly the next day to Amsterdam, direct. Instead, we got this crazy idea of let's just keep it going, and why go back home and sleep. So we got to the airport, figured it all out, didn't have to pay or anything like that. That was the crazy part, is we somehow were able to they were allowed us to be on standby, and they told us the receipts available. So we went back home, took a 15-minute cab, dropped off our old stuff, packed in 10 minutes. And I think because we only had like 30 to 45 minutes to get back to the airport, but we needed to get all of our other stuff. And so went back, just threw the old stuff and grabbed a bunch of random stuff. Didn't even know what we grabbed really. But figured it was enough, and went back and jumped on, and was back at the airport and ended up in Amsterdam.
Okay, so you were supposed to go to Amsterdam anyway, but you were supposed to have more time in between.
Basically, yeah. And we crunched it, we figured it out, and ended up being a whirlwind because, just felt like we were in Outer Banks like hours ago. So it was pretty wild. But
you definitely cannot fly from the Outer Banks directly to Amsterdam, though.
Yeah.
There's no international there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's been the biggest difference you've noticed between living in Europe versus living in the United States?
Great question. Some of the stuff I kind of know is, or like new going in was, like more lifestyle over work. I think like one thing, right? Like conversation with a lot of people, if you're meeting somebody or even your friends that you know very closely here, it's like the first conversation is never work, like, or if at all, like,
right.
or it's not. And if you're meeting somebody for the first time, usually, you generally aren't asking like what their profession is or their job or status or anything like that. It's, and maybe it was more of my culture before when living back in the States, but that was always like the first line of conversation. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm in the, now I'm being the digital nomad that I mentioned, but my home base has for a long time been the Washington, D.C. metro area. And that's always, I thought it was just our area too, but you're saying, Minneapolis, I think it's the same throughout the country. Although I've heard some people in like Denver and California, that's not necessarily the first question, but for most of what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not asking, what do you do? Like, do you like snowboarding? Are you a skier? Do you play paddleboard? Do you play pickleball or whatever? It's what do you do as a profession? That's always the thing.
Exactly.
And it throws people off if you are like, no, but I mean, like, what do you enjoy doing for fun? Right. They're like, but what you're saying in Europe is like, they don't even talk about business really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a few people I've hung out with 5+ times, I still don't even know what they do, or like what their job is. And know them pretty well enough to text, and don't know. I didn't ask, and I haven't looked up. I'm not good on social media and stuff like that, so like that might contribute as well. But kind of wild for me. A little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah, it's a whole different perspective of how to live life, right? Because again, it just what's the word I'm looking for? Illustrates, illuminates, highlights how work focused Americans are, and like the rest of your life is as kind of a side, like that's your side gig the rest of your life,
Right.
but your life is
Exactly.
really your work. But that's
Yep.
so twisted. We that's where we
Yep.
need to rewire the brain to be like, yeah, work
Yeah.
is a part of life, but it's not your life.
Yeah. It
You know,
really
when
is.
people talk about work-life balance, I'm like, no, it's work-life integrate. Like everything is integrated together. It's not one is one thing and one is another thing. Like they're not two different lives.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. And there's a saying that I don't know if it's a Dutch saying, but one of my Dutch friends just told me it's like when you end the day, or if you're at a dinner table and the only thing that you can say that you learned that day is something related to work or is work, that's kind of like a fail, or like not a fail. So like it's like a goal every day to go to the table about what you like, knowing what you learned that is outside of of work. And you see that a lot. Like you can hear a lot of people doing music practice, or before dinner, or playing the piano reading. There's a big culture here. That really blew my mind, because so many times that would be that'd be the start. And it goes into my point, I guess, of creativity and personal growth, was like, hey, maybe you are learning, like spending the next 3 weeks learning an instrument or a language or something, right? And that can be pretty powerful. It's iterative, right, between
Yeah.
professional and personal.
Oh my gosh, that is gold right there. Like
Yeah.
this whole conversation, that is a key takeaway. I love
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. All right. So as we'll leave that nugget right where it is as we wrap up our conversation. But first, what is the song that you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy? Because you seem pretty chill.
Yeah. So I typed it up. It's Lose Yourself by Eminem. It's a little cliche, right? But I typed it up, and then I gave it a listen. I was like, is this going to be the one? And then I turned it on, and I was like, going to give it a listen. I'm like, yeah, that's it. I was like, that's the one. It's a little cliche, but I was a little Eminem fan growing up.
Sure.
Kind of love that. And every time I listen to it, I kind of get back into that younger generation mode of being excited and ready to rock. Yeah. So, yeah, it works every time.
Awesome. Love it. And then lastly, if somebody wants to get in touch with you to continue the conversation, where can they do that, and how do they sign up for your newsletter? Because I'm going to go
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, you can access the newsletter on our homepage, viatravelers.com. There's a little button, join our newsletter. It'll open up to an opt-in page where you can subscribe. And then and we also have other guides where, if you want an Amsterdam guide, just go to any of our Amsterdam articles, and we have like a whole specific guide for that. That's free. You can check us out on socials at Via Travelers, with a S at the end, Via Travelers, on all of our social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, all the platforms, TikTok, and then
Yeah.
YouTube, if you love like seeing stuff, and you can see my personal videography. I'm not always doing the vlog style, but most of all of the footage, if not all of the footage, is from me on our YouTube channel, Via Travelers.
Okay. I will put links to that website in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be
Cool.
great.
Kyle, thank you so much for joining me today on Fine is a Four-Letter Word.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Lori. This is great.